Darzi Vom Sarg. Peace be upon every one of you. This is my holy table for the Enochian system, and you'll notice that I have color-coded the king and prince names, letters, to make it easier to read. Okay, the thing's intact. I'll just have to straighten it later. It's not traditional to have all these extra letters in the middle here, but those are the other 42 7-character long names that can be formed with the B's in the corners. So 4 B's or 49. I'm not sure why that is. It's also, these 3 layers represent the 3 layers of beingness that was taken by the 343 beings in the vision, and my soul uncovered in the 2 star forms. That's also additional information that I thought to encode in there, but the program here today is another look at practical magic of Dr. John Dee's Enochian tablets, Tabularum Bonorum Angelorum Invocationes by Stephen Skinner and David Rankine from the 9th of the 8th month of 1437. It's the 13th of the 8th month of 1438. The magic squares of the Enochian system may not be needed to recite or read the formulas or use other Enochian tools, but they are certainly central to the system. Investigating the original manuscripts left me with an amount of context and variety not seen in any book. Now, the Great Tablet of the Earth would have been better to show with this, per se, but I thought that every year I would show a variety of the Enochian art. You can look at the last videos I posted to see that. Without merely summarizing or copying practical magic of Dr. John Dee's Enochian tablets, Tabularum Bonorum Angelorum Invocationes by Stephen Skinner and David Rankine, I will attempt to coherently express about the findings of Stephen Skinner and David Rankine. The cover of Practical Magic of Dr. John Dee's Enochian tablets, Tabularum Bonorum Angelorum Invocationes by Stephen Skinner and David Rankine, indicate that the count of the Great Table will be by multiples 25 when the Tablet of Union is spread out over the Black Cross and used to join the 4 tablets as a tablet which is 25 squares wide and 27 high. The order of this graphic indicates that the tablets in Enochian would be air and earth on the right, and water and fire on the left. In your opinion, do Stephen Skinner and David Rankine understand the methods of Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly and their origins? Yeah. What role does disciplic succession play in Western ceremonial magic? Are there really a series of secret orders that have driven the course of Western history? Close enough. Did the scholars and magicians thought to innovate methods bring anything new but forms and names? Is the inheritance within families any more than exposure to teachings and material goods passed on? Magic can be said to be skill and techniques for experience or awareness of a spiritual nature. Now, I don't know where else you find that exact way of rendering the term magic, but that is the definition you can use. Just like the words angel and demon, magic is a misused and maligned word that generally doesn't mean much or means too much. Formerly, magic was only spoken of as for communication with occult beings or even God. the creator of all. Now magic is a word for atheist and theist alike to work with thought. Is a work of atheist and theist alike to work with thought form entities, our projections, and to personally explore their psychology. This distinction from stage tricks is why some insist on spelling it as magick. Dualistic and moralistic thinking upon the terms have led to the labels of white and black magic as good and evil instead of universal categories. Who is to say what is lawful and forbidden? What are their reasons? Revelation, inspiration, experience and understanding? On what grounds? What is the importance of the history of a place? Edward Kelly and Thomas Coke both went to Worcester College before working for John Dee. Elias Ashmole was commissioner for excise at Worcester after John Dee's death, and being a collector of his writings. Baron Somers and Sir Joseph Jekyll lived in the Worcester area. Gerald Yorke lived nearby, and Robert Turner benefited by access to his papers. Worcester plays a central role in Western angelic magic indeed. Jesus was thought to be a ceremonial magician in touch with secrets of natural and spiritual sciences. After the Crusades started and the centuries of books of church rituals, grimoires, or handbooks of magic dominated ceremonial magic through the 1600s at the least. Could Liber Saucer Cividratus by Honorius Filius Euclid of Thebes and others provide the methods to have true metaphysical experiences. This sworn book of Honorius had a sigillium ameth, which inspired John Dee. Heptameron by Peter D. Abano seemed to try to list the categories and entities in an ordered fashion, as indicated by its title, Magical Elements. The Armadale listed names and signs of the 7 angels that John Dee most wanted to communicate with. Arbitel or De Magia Veterum contains entities referenced in Libri Mysteriorum by John Dee. Alamadel contained words in its formulas that had Enochian equivalents and instructions for the same types of ritual tools and furniture. Art the Ergia Goetia mentions details of conjurations and mentions scrying surfaces. Art Pauline mentions a wax table of practice. John Dee paid a lot to get a copy of Trithemius with its stegonographia, or art of concealed writing, as a text on angelic magic. During the time of John Dee, Simon Forman wrote his own guide to angelic magic in 1590. John Dee, of 1527 to 1609 of the Vulgar era, was a seeker of truth that developed quite the reputation in analysis, science, and magic of all sorts. John Dee even tried to get James I to try him for sorcery in order to reveal the truth. One truth is he first took interest in scrying and angelic magic in 1569. Could be before that, but that's what the record shows. Whether he died in December of 1608 or March of 1609, that is when he stopped trying to get messages from occult communications. Susanna Jones and Thomas Woodall bought John Dee's chest with a secret compartment in 1642. 20 years later, Susanna and her then husband discovered the secret compartment in 1642. Oh, the secret compartment with manuscripts, books, and a set of olive wood beads with an olive wood cross at its end. Thought worthless, half of the papers ended up being burnt or put to other use. Eventually, the Jones decided to protect the rest of John Dee's handwritten books. The Joneses also saved the remaining books from the Great London Fire of 1666. Elias Ashmole later acquired those and other manuscripts of Dr. John Dee. They reside this day in the Bodleian Library, and Elias Ashmole's artifact collection is in Oxford's Ashmolean Museum. These were Libri Mysteriorum 1 through 5, the 48 Claves Angelica, Liber Scientia Auxiliae, and Terrestris, the Heptarchia Mystica, Collection Angelorum Liber Primus, and a book of invocations or calls. With the exception of the 5 books of mystery, they were bound into Sloan manuscript 3191. 3678 was Elias Ashmole's handwritten copies. Manuscript 3188 had Elias Ashmole's description of the Great Table and invocations in the last of the 5 books. It also had a table of contents in 7 categories, in the writing of someone else from the 1600s of the Common Era. 307 is the corrected version by a being called Raphael of the Great Table. Now, the unfallen angels may have beings of the fallen angels with similar names or exact names, whether they just like to be called such or whatever. That's being probably the greatest figure of math, mechanics, and science of his time, John Dee wanted accurate and ordered information from the beings he communicated with about the secrets of humans, mechanics, transformation, travel, natural magic, species of elemental creatures, medicine, and stones. Someone accessed the Book of Invocations and Calls before John Dee's death to translate and explain some of its contents. Practical magic of Dr. John Dee's Enochian tablets, Tabularum Bonorum Angelorum Invocationes by Stephen Skinner and David Rankine follows along that goal of the unknown author. I don't know what's wrong with my pronunciation lately, but you know what I'm trying to say. Guillaume de Saluste, Sagneur de Bartas of 1514 to 1592 of the Vulgar era, published his le semaine au création du monde in 1578 as a rhyming epic, rivaling Dante's Divine Comedy in the Protestant world. There seems to be a lack of direct proof of this author of a 7 days of creation piece around the biblical book of Genesis communicating with Dr. John D. R. Edward Kelly, but they ran in some of the same social circles, and similar ideas are shown in the manuscripts. Le Semaine was not rendered into English till 1605, though. By the way, a similar sort of situation in some regards as Joseph Smith and the Mormons, and similar comparisons have been made what was going on at the time, and I think this is more important when looking at that group, this type of thinking, but for the most part it's not. I honestly think the Enochian stuff is a better Christian revelation. But the table of contents, Sloan manuscript 3821, mentions the practice of the tables, operation of the east angle, celestial confirmations by contractures from the 7 Sarzode intelligences, humble supplication to God, Enoch's prayer, Michael Nostradamus's epistles to his son and Henry II, a second treatise as the Egyptian Magi from ancient to modern times. The operations differ from the Enochian systems. The Nostradamus letters were in print at the time and probably show no connection to John Dee. The prayers may have been by Elias Ashmole. Sloan manuscript 307 was by an unknown hand, and they venture that Thomas Rudd wrote it because a T.R. True and faithful relation, I believe, helped with because a T.R. helped with Johann Weyer's pseudo Monarchia Daemonum. He wrote John Dee on October 19, 1606, about alchemical vitriol. He published John Dee's mathematical preface to Euclidean 1651, and had other interest in angelic magic. Robert Turner of 1620 to 1655 of the Vulgar era translated and published grimoires. Sir Robert Cotton preserved a lot of John Dee's library, and Merritt Casaubon published a true and faithful relation of what passed between John Dee and some spirits. However, it is Elias Ashmole's legacy in his copying and the influence on the later Golden Dawn that is more responsible for the legacy of the Enochian material. He expounded upon Sloan manuscript 3191 by John Dee. Baron John Somers of Evesham of 1651 through 1716 of the Vulgar era retired after an attempted impeachment in 1698. Starting a year later, he spent 5 years as head of the Royal Society, but otherwise led a private life of studying angel magic. Sir Joseph Jekyll of 1663 through 1738 inherited some of Somers' magical books and followed in his practice of angel magic. Goodwin Wharton of 1653 to 1704 was a sort of stereotypical occultist seeking help from diverse entities in order to gain the treasures of this world. He might have learned from William Lilly's son and had Mary Paris as a supporter. Now, as I go on, the actual book that I'm getting this information from has more information to support these. I'm just giving a rundown. Sir Hans Sloane of 1660 to 1653 bought almost all Jekyll's magical books at his estate sale. He was no mere collector. He was a scholar of scrying and other techniques. Now just ask a Muslim or a Zen master or something and you'll get more information on scrying. Or at least you should. His death led to the British Museum acquiring them. The disciplic succession stopped till Frederick Hockley of 1808 through 1885 of the Vulgar era. Reverend William Alexander Ayton of 1816 through 1909 of the Vulgar era. Wynne Westcott of 1848 through 1925 of the Vulgar era. Frederick Lie Gardner of 1857 through 1930 of the Vulgar era. Alan Bennett of 1872 through 1923 of the Vulgar era. S.L. MacGregor Mathers of 1854 through 1918, the Vulgar era. Now, Gardner and Mathers got to be the most famous people you're here mentioned in this book in some occult circles. And other members of the Golden Dawn took up the study and the practice of some of these manuscripts. The Golden Dawn's Book H was not a complete record of Sloan manuscript 307. This document shows red ruling, the mentioned Coronzone, who tempts humanity into wickedness and corruption of their pure essence. Now there's two spellings otherwise, other than that, for that entity's name, and certain other matters in red. The Golden Dawn may have ignored Sloan 3821 and been unaware of other manuscripts related to Enochian, like Rowley's Son manuscript D 1067 and D 1363. Clay Holton indicates that it wasn't the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley that rediscovered Enochia, but it was they who brought it into the public domain, the public attention. Now, I would completely agree based on what I have shared alone, and there are other reasons which I may get into elsewhere, or I have gotten into elsewhere that is available, but I can't think of the reference at the point, rather to the original thing or the material, but I'm just presenting this paper. Clavicula Tabularum Enochia shows the tablet of union and the four tablets which they are to be written as a cross between. The numbering makes clear that it would be the 13th column and 14th row. Air would be the upper right, water would be in the upper left, earth would be in the lower right, and fire would be in the lower left. If the characters are rendered right to left, as in Enochian, the banners circle in Sloan 3191 might indicate that air is east, earth is south, fire is west, water is north. This may not be so when the little tablet of union order, is of east, west, north, south is considered. These are labeled as of the earth. I believe that as the 48 squares with red letters per tablet, except the 20 of the tablet of union, were intended to show the angel names with that the capital letters were intended to show the first letter of the 7-letter governor names. Clavicula Tabularum Enochi transcription affirms this is how it is the key. There are 3 names of God as one line of 3 4, and 5 as the middle row of each elemental tablet. The fifth letter of these names of God, of the regal banners, starts the counterclockwise inward spiral that is the 8-letter name, king name on each tablet. The senior names are formed by going out from the center of each elemental tablet. The Saturn and Mercury senior names are on the right line, going down through the 3 sacred names of God in 12 characters. The Moon and Jupiter senior names are on the left line, going through the 3 names of God of Hosts in 12 characters. The Mars senior name is backwards of the first 7 letters of this, and the Venus senior name is the last 7 letters of this 12-letter line. The Calvary Cross names of God are horizontal, 5-letter names for commanding, and vertical names of 6 letters that start with the top square for calling forth. Each section of the great table is given particular attributes. The lesser angels are 4 from the 4 letters to the sides of the top square. The servient angels find their names in the same 4-fold rendition of each of 4 rows per quadrangle. The tablet of union has the rows that mean air, water, earth, and fire. The columns are in order of spirit, spirit of air, spirit of water, spirit of earth, and spirit of fire. A single square of this tablet is added to the name of the chief angel of each of the 16 quadrangles to form the name of God of that quadrangle. The tablet of union is used in the same way to find the first letter of the demon names upon the 25 by 27 square table. They are called forth by the backwards form of the invoking name of God of their quadrangle, and commanded by the backwards form of the commanding or evoking name of God in their quadrangle. Every angel name that is in the initial order has the last letter removed to form the names of the evil or fallen angels. Then each of those in reverse order is likewise an evil being. The methods of evoking and invoking may generally involve English or your own language. I believe this is not necessary. I will not get into the specifics of clothes, furniture, and prayers here. These are authentic methods of systematically listing the hierarchy of each element as John Dee and Edward Kelly would, except maybe the extra letters for pronunciation. I do believe that the style indicates that it would be better if the context of the names in the prayers be rendered into Enochian. All one has to do is mention or think about the squares and names that are connected to it. I do not recommend worship of other than God, but I know I can't stop you. A person can acknowledge the existence of other spiritual forces than God without praying to them, or otherwise being devoted to them as lesser gods or intercessors. Whatever you serve, the 675 squares and these methods may help. Now, might as well go over the letters of the squares here of the holy table. Boson sas nam surlir fadio wango evil Ramlerlanau. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 jungle pub sob yo I sub Yenal Oit Roll of Lurl Hoy I'll Rapas Vas Nagmal Yagi Dampal Love Fuzz Milo Enoli Monglo Risaflenangoli Aspamaliendon Ragiob Iralion Savon Alcaora In Pangi Arnafa Milgis Aspalo Aeno Regisum Damno Novorengi Aldango Ormilavas Kanam Mien Bolam Artario Leyangan Basdana Amlebulenangif Arvorat. Take me away, take me away, take me away. Leave only me as pure soul. Fifars evon song. Peace be upon every one of you.